the Canterbury Tales, the Man of Law's Tale. So the Man of Law is a lawyer, and he starts by praising the Virgin Mary and laments the suffering of good people. He begins the tale of Constance, which is a tale of Christian virtue. So Constance was the daughter of the Roman emperor, the emperor of Rome, and so she's a princess, and she is betrothed to be married to the Sultan of Syria, who is the ruler of the Muslims. The Sultan is in love with her and agrees that he and his court will convert to Christianity in order to be allowed to marry Constance. However, the Sultan's mother is very upset about this and considers that her son is betraying his religion and his people to convert to Christianity. So she's furious about the conversion, and she plots against Constance as a result. But the Sultan is set on converting to Christianity and marrying Constance, and so the Emperor of Rome sends his daughter Constance to the Sultan so that they can get married. At the wedding feast, they go through the marriage ceremony, and there's a wedding feast. And Constance has, at this point, she's come to Syria. She's traveled all the way to Syria from Rome, basically from Italy, from Rome, across the Mediterranean Sea to Syria, not by herself, but with a retinue of her followers, of noblemen and knights who accompany her. And they all go to the wedding feast after the wedding. And while they're feasting, the Sultan's mother, at a surprising moment of betrayal, has her followers rise up while the Christians are feasting and slaughter all the Christians, except for Constance. But all of her followers, her knights and her nobles, are slain at the feast. And only Constance is left alive. And Constance, she orders to have put into a boat by herself with some supplies and no oar to row, and pushed out to sea to float, presumably to her death. So Constance is set adrift on the sea from Syria and goes through the Mediterranean Sea, past the Straits of Gibraltar into the Atlantic Ocean. And this is over a course of over a year, or several years. She slowly drifts towards England and lands on the shore of Northumbria, which is in northern England here, the very top of the pink section of England. So she is preserved on this voyage, obviously, by a miracle, because there's no way anybody would survive that on their own, considering that it went on for years, and she only had a limited amount of food and didn't have any fresh water. But through God's providence, he preserves her on this journey, and she is a very devout Christian, and she engages in prayer as a regular part of her life. And she also radiates her faith in a way that causes the conversion of anybody that she meets, which is why the Sultan was so willing to convert to Christianity. Well, now she has arrived in Northumbria in northern England. She gets out of her boat and she meets the constable, which is like the sheriff of Northumbria. And the constable and his wife like her and decide to take her into their home and let her live with them since she has nowhere to stay. And within a very short period of time, she brings, through miracles again, she brings the constable and his wife to conversion to Christianity. Then later, she is accused of a crime and is brought to King Allah, the king of Northumbria. And again, through a miracle, God shows King Allah that she is not guilty of any crime, but that she's actually in the right. And this miracle causes King Allah to convert to Christianity also. So the constable and the king of Northumbria, which was a pagan country, became converted to Christianity through Constance. And shortly after he converts to Christianity, the king of Northumbria decides that he wants to marry Constance. And so her and the King Allah of Northumbria get married. And they live happily together. Later, perhaps a year or so later, the king of Northumbria is on a trip. King Allah is on a trip away from home. And meanwhile, Constance is pregnant, and she bears her son. And his name is Mauricius. And the king is away, and so messages are sent to the king to give him the good news that his son has been born. And he writes back to give instructions on taking care of his son, and he's very happy about it. But on the way back, the messengers are intercepted by Allah's mother. And she gets the messenger drunk and then looks at the letter that King Allah sent to his wife. And she writes her own letter because she does not like Constance, perhaps because of the same reason that the Sultan's mother didn't like Constance, which is that she has caused the conversion of her son from the pagan religion to Christianity. So the Allah's mother's name is Donegild, and she writes a fake letter from King Allah saying that Constance has borne a monster, and that because of that she has betrayed her country and deserves to be exiled from the country permanently. Therefore, she instructs the sheriff of Northumberland to put her into a boat with the child and cast them out to sea and let the waves be rid of them. So in Northumbria, the constable receives this message supposedly from King Allah. So again, Donegild had sealed the letter and signed it as if it was from King Allah, from her husband. And the letter instructs that she needs to be put into a boat and set adrift within 3 days, or else the constable will be put to death. So after a lot of hemming and hawing, he's very reluctant to do this. Constance is put into a small boat with her child and cast into the ocean again to drift. Now, when King Allah returns to his castle and asks to see his son, everybody is very surprised. And he is shown the letter that he supposedly sent that told them to put her on a boat, to put Constance on a boat and send her away with her child. And he is furious when he sees this. And he does some detective work and is able to figure out that it actually was his mother that took his letter and substituted it with her own evil letter that said to get rid of Constance. And so he punishes his mother severely, and then he himself goes on a pilgrimage from England to Rome, where he is going to do penance for his sins and pray for his wife. Meanwhile, Constance is drifting on the ocean, and she again doesn't have any oar, nothing to guide her, no person with her to help her. But God is with her, and He preserves her as she travels on the waves from England down past Spain and Portugal through the Straits of Gibraltar, and she lands very providentially in Rome, where she started. So in Rome, you remember that she was the daughter of the Roman emperor, so she could have gone back to the Roman emperor's palace and told them, "Hey, I'm back home. Could you help me?" But she doesn't. Instead, she just accepts the charity of good people that help her, and she remains anonymous. Nobody knows who she is, but just that she washed up on the shore. After she's been there for some time, and again, in this case, years have passed now since she's been cast out to sea, and the king, King Allah, assumes that his wife was killed by being cast into the sea by his mother-in-law's order. And he's very sad about that. And that's why he's on the pilgrimage to Rome and doing penance. And after she's been in Rome for some time, she hears the news that King Allah of Northumbria has arrived. So she arranges to go see him. And at first, he wonders, he never suspects that it's his wife because it's been so long, and he assumes that she died in the waves very soon after she was pushed out to sea. But after a short conversation, he comes to realize that she is his wife and that God has preserved her. And so King Allah and Constance and their child are reunited as a family again, and they go back to England until and where he rules for many more years until his death. After King Allah's death, Constance returns to Rome, and lives a devout life. And eventually, their son Mauricius, who you remember that Constance was the daughter of the Roman emperor, that therefore her son is the grandson of the Roman emperor. So eventually, their son Mauricius becomes the next Roman emperor. So the moral of the story is that faith and virtue are rewarded and evil will be punished. Divine providence protects the innocent. When she was cast out to the sea each time, that's happened twice, God protects her and guides her in the way He wants to go. And even though it seems like the chaos of the sea is carrying her any which way, really God is directing that boat to where He wants it to go. And as far as evil will be punished, the mother-in-law who does this evil thing seems at first to be victorious because she has apparently gotten rid of Constance. But in the end, her crime is found out, and she is punished severely for it. So the themes of the story are divine justice and providence, female virtue and suffering. Constance is a model of feminine virtue. She is a good wife. She submits to her husband. She is gentle and kind and forgiving, and long-suffering. She's willing to put up with the suffering that is in store for her in spite of the fact that she doesn't deserve it. And she also forgives her husband and her husband's family for what they did to her. And there's also the themes of the power of conversion, the fact that Constance seems to be able to convert almost anyone she meets to Christianity, and also betrayal and treachery, which is the mother-in-laws who betray Constance and send her off to sea. But God uses it as a way to bring good, even though it seems like bad. And he also protects her in spite of the chaos of being out on the ocean with no supplies or very few supplies. So, symbolism. Constance could be a symbol, is very probably meant to be a symbol of the Christian faith or maybe the Christian church. You think about it, the she comes from Rome, like the church, right? And she is sent across the sea to and brings conversion to pagans and Muslims, just like the missionaries of the church go across the sea to try and bring conversion to people. And she is betrayed and persecuted and exiled, just like missionaries often were. And just like Christians are, right? Christians in general are going to face persecution and betrayal. But she responds with love and submission rather than revenge or justice. She forgives her persecutors. The Pardoner's Tale is the second story we're going to look at today. And this one is told by the pardoner. A pardoner is somebody that sells indulgences in the Middle Ages, something that we wouldn't be doing today. But so he works for the church and he goes around preaching the sale of indulgences. And he starts off by explaining that he preaches against sin when he goes to towns. He has a good speech made up where he preaches against the sin of greed. But he does that for a bad reason, which is that he wants to make a lot of money for himself. And he uses some fraudulent techniques to do it, such as using fake relics to manipulate people. His favorite sermon topic is greed, which is ironic because he's very greedy himself. But the topic is greed is the root of all evil. And so the tale that he's going to tell is a tale that demonstrates how greed is the root of all evil. The Pardoner's Tale. 3 young men, or rioters in Flanders, are drinking and behaving sinfully. They learn that their friend has been killed by a figure called Death. Somebody called Death. And they're very angry about this, and they swear to each other that they are going to hunt down Death and kill Death. While they're hunting for Death, they encounter an old man. And they tell him that they're looking for Death because they want to kill him. The old man seems sad and weary. And by the way, he's kind of a symbol of death, but he's not death. So they rudely question him, and he tells them that they will find Death under a nearby tree. And he points out the tree to them. So they quickly head over to that tree. And under the tree, instead of finding Death, they find a pile of gold coins, a large pile. So large that they can't stick it in their pockets, but it would have to be taken away with a wheelbarrow or something. So they wonder, how will they get this? They realize that they're rich now, but they need to be able to safely get this hoard of coins back to where they live without anybody finding out about it, because if somebody was to see them carrying all this money back in a cart or something, they could possibly think they stole it, or somebody might steal it from them. So they decide that 2 of them will stay camped there under the tree and guard over the gold, while one of them will go back to town and get some supplies, including wine and bread, to keep them fed while they slowly transport the money secretly back to their house. So they draw lots and decide which one's going to go into town, and the youngest one gets the lot to go into town, and he heads off to town to buy the bread and the wine. And as soon as he leaves, the other 2 start plotting against him and say, wouldn't it be nice if we could keep this gold for ourselves, just the 2 of us? And the way we'd have to do that is we'd have to get rid of the 3rd one, the one that went into town, the youngest one. So they said, why don't we do this? If when he comes back with the bread and wine, one of us will pretend to wrestle with him, and the other one will stab him in the back, and then the one that's wrestling with him will stab him also, and thus we will kill him, and we will get his share of the money, and it will be that much richer. So they agree on that. Meanwhile, the third one, who's gone into town, gets the bread and the wine, but then he also stops at the apothecary's shop and buys poison, because he also has this same thought that wouldn't it be nice if I could have all that gold for myself? So he buys the poison thinking, I have 3 bottles of wine, I'll poison the 2 that are going to my friends, and I will keep the good one for myself, and then they will die, and I will get to keep all the gold for myself. So he arrives back at camp with the supplies, and immediately his friends put the plan into action and kill him. They pretend to wrestle with him, one of them stabs them, and he dies. They then take his supplies and start drinking the wine and eating the bread, and in short order, both of them have also died of the poison. And so here, a day after the old man told them they would find death under this tree, you have 3 young men dead under the tree, surrounding the pile of gold. So all 3 of these men died because of their greed. The pardoner ends by offering to sell pardons or sell indulgences and relics to other pilgrims, despite having just admitted his fraudulence at the beginning of the story. He even tries to sell one to the host, who's leading the story competition, leading to a heated moment between the 2 of them. So the moral of the story is that greed leads to death and destruction, or that greed is the root of all evil, or another way of saying it in our modern language is that money is the root of all evil. The themes are greed and corruption, death and mortality, irony and hypocrisy. The irony is in the storyteller himself, who is preaching against greed and yet is clearly very greedy himself and is a hypocrite. And deception and betrayal, the friends betray each other, and the moral decay of society. Symbolism. So the old man in the story that they meet symbolizes death, and the rioters' pursuit of death, they're going to find death so they can kill him, is kind of weird anyway, because you can't kill death, right? Death is death. But it's also symbolic of the pursuit of riches. By using your life to pursue riches instead of pursuing good and pursuing God, it leads to death. So riches seem like a good thing, but in the end, they lead to death. And then again, it just leads back to the theme that money is the root of all evil.